Well, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for being here today. I know it's the end of the day, and I know most of you are here for those AirPods and for that Apple Watch, but I appreciate y'all being here anyway. As our lovely host has mentioned, I am Emily Cash. I'm the Director of Product Marketing over at Adjust, and I'm very excited to have a conversation today with two of our fabulous clients about how modern growth marketers have really had to pivot and adjust their app marketing strategies in order to continue to drive growth in the face of industry changes and our famous ATT and SCAD network. So I'm going to let our fabulous clients introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Rockford Yapp. I'm the VP of Acquisition Marketing at Public.com. Public is an investing app where you can invest in everything from stocks to crypto, ETFs, treasury bills, the whole kit and caboodle. And we have a suite of investment research products to help people be better investors.
Hello, everyone. I'm E from Tilting Point. Tilting Point is a mobile game publisher. So we work with external developers, try to deliver the best game to the market. As the Senior Director of Growth Marketing, I oversee the user acquisition, ad monetization, and ASO for the portfolio of games. Thank you, Emily, for the invite today.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you for being here. Really appreciate it. I think you guys will see how awesome it is that we are going to have two folks from very different aspects of the mobile app industry. So getting started, let's set the scene. Let's go back to about this time 2 years ago. ATT framework rolling out. We've got SCAD network rolling out as well. I think ultimately at a top level, we're all thinking, oh my gosh, the biggest challenge is how am I going to continue to measure the success of my campaigns? How am I going to basically prove success and drive people into my apps, prove spending and prove what's working, what's not working. And because I can't rely on that traditional kind of older version of deterministic attribution anymore. So, what do I do? How do I measure? And I think what's going to be interesting is hearing from you two how that challenge really manifested itself into creating different challenges based on your apps industries. So, again, fintech, gaming, how did this really impact your gaming apps?
Yeah, I think the first challenge, as we just mentioned, is, okay, what is the day 7 ROAS? What is the day 30 ROAS of this campaign? And it's pretty hard for user acquisition manager to tell people, okay, is this campaign profitable or not? Like, basically, we have no ideas about that when Scam just released. So we need to pour down a lot of spend to understanding, okay, how we can continue to run iOS 14 campaigns successfully with Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, Snapchat, etc. So we started to looking into scanned conversion value. And I think that comes with the second challenge is, okay, how do we figure it out? How do we, using the 6-bit, how do we utilize different event and custom event, engagement event, revenue event as well? So we try different approach, and ultimately we have used Adjust Conversion Hub. I think that's quite efficient for a publisher to test different conversion value schema, and we're able to finally get some day 0 scam ROAS, I would say. I think that's how people started to run the campaigns again and started to do the measurement and move forward to next stage.
Amazing. And so Rockford, with a fintech app, how may have that been a little bit different from what you experienced?
Yeah, so we were a lot less invested in things, like day 7 ROAS, for instance, and like a user level was a lot less important to us. And we have always been a little bit more sort of concerned with like the cohort ROAS and like blended metrics. So it was a shift in that it was more impactful on like the channels that we could use effectively, as opposed to just like how we strictly like measure things, right? So we, instead of, just like relying a lot more on like user level attribution and user level performance and everything, just started shifting a little bit more resources into, just like media mix modeling and measuring that and understanding how are different sort of investments across different platforms going to impact the overall blended metrics. So it changed a little bit of, like how we had to measure things in our internal dashboards and how we were feeding those different systems and whatnot. But yeah, at the end of the day, it was still a lot of the same sort of brain work, just looking at it from a different angle.
Now, I think one of the big questions that we received at Adjust right off the bat is to opt in, to not opt in, It's a big question. But actually, big question is really, how much do I invest in the ATT framework? How much do I invest in trying to get my users to opt in? What is going to be the value of the data that's coming in from these opted in users, and how can I continue to use that with, the other data that I'm getting from my scan campaigns? So there's a bunch of different, approaches. There's a bunch of different schools of thought around this. So would love to hear, what your strategy has been regarding the ATT framework.
So on our side, our product marketing team has invested a lot into different A/B testing, different messages that show up before the pop-up screen, and to see how we can better convince the user to allow the tracking, so basically opt in. So they have done a lot, and I would say ultimately there's no common best practice. It's really from different genre of games. It's quite different. Users' behavior, the audience are all different. Ultimately, one of our games, we're seeing up to 20% of opt-in rate, which is quite good for us. And I think what we as a growth team we can use is we started to looking into the opt-in user data again. We're heavily focusing on scam, but then we realized, okay, we still have to track the user data and how we can use that data to measure the cohort performance for our scam campaign. So we started to combine the scam and opt-in user data together to use that to do to fill in our prediction models, looking at ROAS, et cetera, et cetera. And I think that's quite a successful step up on how we should looking at the measurement.
Mm-hmm. Yep. First, it was a little bit different. We had to make a business decision at the rollout to say all right, yeah, if we do prompt users to share their data with us, say optimistically, we can get 10% of people to opt in, but every single user on iOS is going to get a prompt asking if they want us to share their data after we've just asked them to share things like their annual income, their social security number, all these really sensitive pieces of PII that we don't leverage in any of our marketing anyway. But it was a user experience call that we ultimately decided it was not worth it to just have a little bit more granular data on our users. So that was one of the big reasons why we decided it was probably best to just focus a little bit more on the cohort, the blended cohort metrics, as opposed to really digging deep and squeezing a little bit more out of those user level feedbacks that we would have been able to get. So we decided, ultimately we just don't need this opt-in from people. It's probably not going to be worth the trade-off that it's going to impact on the user experience.
You're I've already asked you for everything. I've asked you the name of your firstborn. Let me ask you for more.
Yeah.
Can I actually track you now? Mm-hmm. So I'm going to see how that strategy would probably not be the strongest for an app such as yourselves. Mm-hmm. As we're kind of working through all of this over the past 2 years, what were some of the other surprises that kind of crept up on y'all that maybe you didn't necessarily expect to encounter as you're figuring out these new measurement strategies?
Yeah, well, for me it was the biggest surprise was just the performance across the distribution of app versions, right? Generally speaking, is a rule of thumb, people on the newest version tend to perform best. But since we weren't seeing user level data and getting as much feedback back to the algorithms and stuff with people on iOS 14, we were suddenly seeing better user level data on some pre 14.5 users, which was kind of contradictory, but we kind of knew that this was just a measurement thing as opposed to probably an actual user behavior thing. So OS version was something that I paid a lot more attention to in the months following ATT rollout, but I would say that was probably the biggest surprise. But aside from that, it was really just kind of how long certain channels continued to perform after we had kind of forecasted that they would start to decline, and we didn't see that as immediately as we thought we might.
I think on our side, one of the surprises I personally see, and as something I talking with industry friend and my coworkers is many people say we have pulled down the spend on Facebook. We're moving toward DSP and ad network. For sure, we have the similar approach as well. But I think we have adapted to the scam conversion value with MMP and Facebook very early on. So as a result, we have some games still maintaining good spend with Facebook, and some of them even scale up. So I was a bit surprised to hear like actually people are not moving as fast as I expect on conversion value schema setup and scam solution. More or less, they actually move more efforts into like spending towards ad network DSP, where we still can leverage probabilistic attribution, where we can still measure the ROAS in the old way, instead of thinking of how we can leverage scam and how we can do how we can have a different measurement way to continue spending on the like self-attribution network like Facebook, TikTok, etc.
Yep. I know that's something that surprised us surprised us a little bit on the MMP side is, really working on tools to help people, secure their opt-in from their users and, here are some best practices in A/B testing and understanding how the data ended up kind of laying out where, certain industries like, in gaming, we saw definitely really high opt-in rates. And then in other industries, we saw kind of lower opt-in rates. And then also regionally, kind of the spread between, kind of engagement with apps based on, a region's relationship with privacy in their data already. Folks in the US are much more likely to be like, yeah, sure, track me. It's, it's fine. Versus some of our counterparts in Europe. That was definitely something we were like, that's really that's an interesting observation that we're seeing here. So, and thinking about all these new strategies, you've already briefly mentioned, influencers and MMM. You talked about, some like predictions and some modeling on your side with Scan. I want to kind of dig a little bit more into some of these newer strategies that you are leveraging for. Creating measurement success at your organizations.
I can start off. So I think for us, like the biggest successes that we've seen have really been about just like being very deliberate about the channels that we choose, right? And not just relying on, say, an algorithm to find the best users for us, right? It was one of those things where we have a pretty good idea of like what our best users look like. And we just had to do a little bit more like work on where we find those users, right? So, like where does the typical, like 30s something that's interested in investing spend their time, right? Like what podcasts do they listen to? What YouTube influencers do they watch? Like what social networks do they spend their time on and so on. So I think for me, it was just kind of like deciding, all right, if I'm not going to rely on this like personal user level data anymore, we just have to, make educated guesses on where we're going to find the most of these people that are going to back out the best, and just make sure that we're, buying that media at a price that backs out to what we predict the return on that cohort is going to be, right? So it's a little bit more sort of guesswork. It requires a lot more like testing to see what works and what backs out, so that you can rebuy and retest and so on. I think that was just kind of like the biggest success that we had, instead of trying to like, force a square peg down a round hole with, measurement and attribution, and making sure that the ad networks were getting the data that they need in order to perform like they had in the past in a world that probably isn't going to exist anymore.
Sure. So for educated investors in their 30s, how many murder podcasts did you invest in?
The murder podcasts were very few and far between. Yeah. It turns out there's a lot of investing podcasts that I had no idea about. So.
And talk about, too, because you've been working internally on your own marketing mix modeling solution. It's been really interesting how this is kind of a throwback measurement style from kind of traditional media days in like the 50s and 60s. That's kind of rearing its head again and making a performance and making an appearance in our kind of performance app marketing industry again. So I know that you've been working on that in-house.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, we're fortunate that we have a pretty stellar data science team that can help put those models together and everything. But a lot of it really boils down to, the work that Adjust is able to do for us, and understanding on like a channel level, like, is this specific channel or this specific influencer or this specific affiliate network performing on the whole, and then using the data that we get from that group of users to kind of inform our media mix, right? So, we do a lot of that work in-house with our data team, and just kind of like the tools that they've built on our back end. But a lot of it is still, kind of boils down to, granular measurement, just not user level granularity, right? So we still know that like influencer A on the whole got this sort of ROAS, but it's not going to be perfect measurement. There's still some 10-15% of people that just like completely opt out of tracking entirely. So, but it's a good enough idea, at least on like the macro level, that we're able to make some pretty good decisions about it.
Awesome. We actually have kind of an adjacent question here. I think you probably answered most of it, but anything kind of to add around, how effective is your influencer marketing, and what are some of, you've already addressed here, what are some of the ways you track performance, leveraging MMM and that lift and kind of using these new tools, but anything to add to that question?
I would say influencer marketing is only as effective as your app allows it to be. Like I used to work in games as well, and we struggled a lot to make influencer marketing work, and it's worked much better in fintech because there are a lot more influencers that are making content for like specifically helping people be better investors, right? So it was a lot easier to find that sort of like alignment in terms of like content and like what your product provides. Whereas say, like a hyper casual game has a very low LTV, and you can't pay an influencer little enough money to make a campaign for an influencer campaign for a hyper casual game back out ever. It's just not going to happen, right? So I would say the biggest thing is make sure that your app is built to sustain an influencer marketing campaign. And if it doesn't work, that's fine. But being able to measure it is super important as well. I mean, like I was saying, like we set all of our influencers up with a unique attribution link so that we know generally, like directionally, like where, like which users are performing best out of that group and whatnot. But yeah, it's really just about making sure that your app is right for influencer as well.
Yeah, you always got to make sure that whatever strategy you're choosing, it's what we're finding, I think, is that measurement really isn't a one-all-fits-all solution anymore. I mean, back with deterministic attribution, just you had the attribution data, that was it. That was kind of the strategy. And now, it's really cool to see how, user acquisition marketers are really thinking outside the box and thinking about different strategies and like, okay, how do I kind of put them together to create something that is like very custom and specific for my business? So that being said, gaming is a lot different. Ian, so, what have you been, I know that you've been working on some prediction stuff and really kind of investing in SCAN.
Yeah, I think what we have been doing with all like this iOS 14 thing, we focus a lot on like understanding the scam data, what measurement we can do, how we can set up the target again for user acquisition manager to properly optimize for their campaign. Like we started with just looking at the scam data, looking at the first 24 hours signals we're getting, what the event they're doing, what the user funnels. And for some of our games that you have good conversion rate in the first 24 hours, we get some revenue post back as well. So you can see it's like day zero scam ROAS as an early indicator for your campaigns. Recently, we started to looking into the like tracked installs performance again. So we realized like it's not just A and B scam versus like a determinate attribution. There's a way that we are able to leverage both data together to fulfill the prediction model, especially considering if your game have like I would say like over like I think average like 10-15 is average. If your game have like over 15 to 20% and you're spending a decent amount of money, which means you have a good amount of tracked installs, users, LTV, and revenue retention data for you to doing the prediction for the whole cohort. So that's what we're doing, and we're seeing better efficiency for marketers to make decisions by leveraging both scam and like the tracked install performance together.
Nice. Yeah, I know that we talk a lot about challenges in this industry. Like, this is also hard now, and we gotta rethink our strategies here. But there have been, some great wins that we've experienced. And so, you kind of started talking about that, saying, like the increase in efficiency that you've seen. Can you talk a little bit more about some of the other successes that you have seen with your new strategies?
Yeah, I think back in the day when we heard of like iOS 14 privacy and like scam is coming, we are like looking to like all the technical requirements, SDK updates from Apple, from MMPs, ad network, etc. So one of our games are actually adapt super fast. Developer working pretty quickly on updating everything, and we're able to testing the scam campaigns with Facebook while using the conversion value schema from Adjust. So as the early adopter, I would say like we're actually seeing much cheaper CPI because like that you're entering a new inventory and less people are bidding on. So we're seeing less CPI, a cheaper CPI, although it's not clear, like how to measure this campaign performance, but we're able to see from the up funnel, like the growth trend of the game. The revenue is growing, the DAU is growing, so we're happy to see the growth, and we're continue to spend. And later on, we put more resource to understanding the measurement, the prediction, etc. So I really think like as an early adopter, it's important in gaming, where you are able to find different audience and you're have the chance to be successfully launching new campaigns. Yeah.
I think that most of the big wins that this has kind of forced on us have really come, from like old school marketing tactics and really focusing on the top of the funnel, right? So without being able to really dig into like, the down funnel, like post install sort of stuff, we've spent a lot of time focusing on things like click-through rates, right? And like really, really dialing in our creative optimizations, really dialing in like conversion rates, right? So those are pieces of data that, did not go away and that we still have like full view of, right? So we've made huge strides there just in terms of just like making sure that more people get dumped into the funnel at the top end. And that's been a huge win. I think also it's kind of forced us to be a little bit more diligent about things like lifecycle marketing or things that aren't traditional, just like normal UA tactics, and making sure that we're engaging people throughout different parts of the funnel with, compelling messaging and making sure that they are progressing in a way that is healthy, right? So it's like a lot of the wins have been less related to UA and more just sort of like building out a more holistic, sort of like well-rounded just marketing program in general.
Yeah, sure. And this is one of the reasons why I'm so happy to have you both on this panel with me today, because it really demonstrates that measurement now can kind of look like anything. We're seeing success from, a bunch of different strategies. And, at Adjust, I know that we, trying to support our clients any way that we can. And so, really thinking about in kind of like next generation, new measurement, what does that look like? It looks like new channels. So it looks like supporting influencers. It looks like, here, the surveys, referral, coupon codes. Yeah, absolutely. Kind of whatever new channels that people can come up with. I think the industry is really going to think about how can we support them, in order to ensure that we're taking up, some of these maybe brand channels and really turn them into something that is performance driven. But then also like looking on the tech side. So you're looking at advanced incrementality. You're looking at advanced predictions. A win that I love to humble brag about is our amazing data science team. With our V2 of our predictions solution, we're now at about a 90% accuracy rate. So just like they're so smart, so much smarter than I am. And it's really, really cool to be able to watch the evolution of the tech in order to be able to support these additional measurement strategies. And again, like bringing MMM back in from the fold. So, being able to support our clients so that they can kind of almost pick and choose and almost kind of package together the solutions that work best for them and like whatever combos there may be is really fun to watch, because you get to see the creativity from all of the mobile marketers out there like themselves. Mm-hmm. So we are just getting started with Scan 4. I know that this question here, how are MMPs preparing for Meta Scan 4 adoption in July? Testing. Cannot stress testing enough. We released our Scan 4 SDK back in, I believe, October, November of last year. And the team has just been testing with all our partners, all of our clients ever since. So that's how we've been preparing. I know other MMPs as well, they've been getting their SDKs ready. They've been testing with, their clients and partners. And so we're all just, trying to figure out how to integrate a lot of the feature functionality into, our conversion value measurement solutions. I mean, I know that we're all super pumped about being able to get rid of that dreaded null value in our scan campaign. So that's something that we particularly are pumped for. But, we know that the privacy-centric nature of the industry is not going away anytime soon. So we're just starting to master Scan 4. Apple's already talking about Scan 5. Google Privacy Sandbox, those APIs are going to be available next month, which means, oh my God, it's July already. What? Where did the year go? And so, they're already talking hard adoption in 2024. So, as we continue to build up, these privacy-centric measurement platforms, how are you guys feeling about it? What's your take?
I'm not as panicked as I was when Apple did it. So, the good news about this, at least, is we've gone through this rigmarole already once with iOS. We're getting way more lead time. We have a playbook for just kind of like how to deal with it. And it's not as panicked as it was before. I felt like there wasn't a single person that I was talking to, when Apple rolled this out 2 years ago, that was just like, nope, it's not a big deal. I got this. Like, well, it's fine. And I think this time around, more people are kind of just like, oh, yeah, we got a handle on it. So.
Yeah, I think on our end is similar. Like we went through a lot with Apple scam, everything in the last 2 years. So when Google Sandbox released, it's not a pure black box, I would say. And I think like everyone did a lot of different testing in the last 2 years. And now we, from the gaming perspective, most people still utilizing MMP's solution for measurement. And I think that's the most efficient way and save marketers, data teams a lot of time just to leveraging the MMP solution. So what matters for me, I would say, like keep up to date to understand what is in the MMP's roadmap to be prepared for Google Sandbox and the future privacy requirement as well. So as an early adopter, as I said always, like we might see some better success if you achieve something earlier than someone else.
Yep. Yeah, and we've been a Google Sandbox testing partner for I think the better part of 2 years now, just, preparing ourselves as best we can for when they, go live and we're adopting yet another new form of measurement. So let's take a look at these questions real quick. Have either of you gone viral? Have you done a TikTok dance?
I starred in our most recent TikTok video, but we're using it in an ad. It's not going viral anytime soon. But we did have one sort of like guerrilla marketing virality moment back in 2021 when the whole GameStop frenzy was going on. So this was not my team directly, but my counterpart on the brand team. We kind of seized this moment of everybody sort of like switching up their brokerages and learning all about stuff like payment for order flow and how these free brokerage apps monetize. So it flew out to LA, recorded a music video with Michael Bolton to write a song about breaking up with your brokerage, and that went pretty viral. But that's about as good as we did. It's still out there on the internet somewhere. You guys can look it up, but it was pretty funny.
I'm Googling this immediately.
No.
All right. I think we're pretty much at time. And I know that we've gotten to all these questions. So to kind of wrap things up, again, thank you so much for being here. And again, I really love this discussion because of all the different angles that we're now approaching measurement. It's just, I love seeing all the creativity and, again, hearing from Rockford and me just, how they've approached, measurement in this new era. So again, thank you for being here. Any final takeaways for our audience here?
Well, on our side is always testing. I think people need to be doing more innovation and not always keep doing the old way you're measuring performance. Be thinking of new things, how you approach new channels, how you do analysis, how you measure the performance. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, can't argue with testing. I agree. You're not going to find the next big thing if you're not willing to try it. So.
Thank you guys so much. We really appreciated being here.